Okay, so hello everyone. So I'm Marc-Olivier Buob. Today I will talk about APT, which is the software used to manage the package under Debian. And so you will soon get a link on this page, on the page of the event to get the MD file. Possibly it's already available. Yes, this is here. So if you want to download the instruction, this is here. And so you will basically have this file. So if you want to display this file, and if you have Jupyter, so you can select your file, do right click, and open with Markdown preview if you want the rendering. Otherwise, I invite you to look at the screen. So first of all, why Debian? You have a lot of Linux distributions. Each of them has its own system package manager, but many distributions are based on Debian. So this includes Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Kali Linux, etc., etc. And all those distributions are used a lot in the wild. Besides, so APT is, in my opinion, the best Linux package manager. So this is why Debian is personally my favorite Linux distribution. And so if you work at Linux, all the servers are under Debian. What could we say about APT? So for every package manager, you have a dedicated file format. For APT, this is the deb files. Another common Linux package manager is RPM, and the corresponding files are RPM. So which means that when you want to download a package for Linux, and if you are under Debian, Ubuntu, or this kind of distribution, you are interested in those deb files, not the RPM ones. So whatever the distribution is, you always require root privilege to install a package. So because you don't want a normal user to break your system. So under Debian, you can become root. This is the case for most of distribution. If you are under Ubuntu or distribution based on Ubuntu, you will require sudo to become root. You have to know that if you are under Debian, you can install sudo and be in the same setup as Ubuntu. So to stay generic, I will assume, and to distinguish whether I'm using a system, a root command or a non-root command, I will always specify in my command if I require those grants or not. So the root commands will be prefixed by sudo, and the other ones won't be prefixed by sudo. So now, what is the tool that is interesting? So actually, what are the tools of interest? So you have several of them. So you have APT, apt-get, and aptitude. So apt-get is always installed on your system, and apt is always available on modern Linux versions. And aptitude is not installed by default, but for complex setup, you might require aptitude. We will come back to aptitude later. So what means APT? So it stands for Advanced System Package. And basically, this is the equivalent of your Play Store. So these are command line tools, but of course, under Linux, you also have graphical interfaces. For example, this one, Discover. And so in Discover, you have the same kind of stuff than you would have, I don't know, on your Android or iPhone devices. So here I have a issue proxy. Up. So of course, the graphical interface is very easy to use. We won't focus on this. We will rather focus on the command line tools for two reasons. First, sometimes you might be stuck with the graphical interface. For example, because here it was a perfect example. I had a proxy issue which is hard to fix. And for complex migration, the graphical interface can't be enough, especially if you have conflicting packets, you will require more advanced tools. So, and this is the purpose of this tutorial. Last point, you have to know that if you are a developer, for example, you might be interested in continuous integration. And so often when you use this kind of tool, you have some virtual machines running Ubuntu or whatever. And so you will have to run some apt command to prepare your virtual machine. And so, of course, you won't have a graphical interface. And so you will require those kind of commands. So now we have the introduction, we have the landscape. So let's start to play and start to see how to use apt. So I will show this on my machine directly. Up. So first of all, I will open a terminal. Okay. Up. Open a new terminal like this. Okay. So I invite you in the meantime to download the virtual machine. Sorry, I will improve this. So I invite you, if you want to try it, if you don't have Linux, if you don't have WSL, if you don't have anything, you could download the VirtualBox in the meantime. And so if you browse this link, you will have a VD file to download, which is a virtual machine. The file is quite big, so I invite you to download it right now so that you will be ready when we will move to the practical. So now I will show you in live how it looks like. So first of all, you have to become root like this. And then you can run aptitude update. So if you do so here I become root, so I can directly run aptitude update. So it will fetch the list of packages from the Debian repositories. So this is the first way to do so. Okay, so it computes. So the second way to do so is to do it via sudo, like this. So this is completely equivalent. And as you will see, it does exactly the same. So here, for example, so yeah, okay. This one is finishing to run. Okay, so if I run it now, it will work. So here we observe the first point. You can't run twice a package manager. So this is an important consideration. Here, this one was running, so this one was stuck. I had to wait. So how do apt detect this? This is because it creates a temporary lock file which states that the package manager is already in use. So sometimes if you have a big crash, you might have these files that resides on your file system and you have no package manager. So you might, if you face this situation, if you are sure that you have no other package manager, you just have to remove these files to unlock your package manager. So here this was justified, and so once this update was done, these files was automatically removed. So this is for the AP so here we have covered the apt update part. So actually, what does it does? So we'll see a little bit later, but basically it will fetch the list of packages from those repositories that are listed in dedicated configuration files. I will come to this later. And it will update the Debian package database to know what are the last version of each packages. So now if I want to run an upgrade, I can run sudo apt upgrade like this. Not that, as I said, you might use apt-get. This is exactly the same, or aptitude, it will be exactly the same. So here I will use apt to stick to the tutorial, but this is exactly the same. So if I run this, what happens? So basically, APT will compare what is installed on my system with the corresponding best version available on the Debian repositories. And it will say, okay, you have a lot of packages that could be upgraded. Do you want to upgrade them? So this is basically the purpose of the upgrade. If I'm happy with this, I won't do this right now because I want to show you how it looks like in Aptitude. Then it will download all those packages and deploy them for you. Okay. So here I will stop. I won't run the upgrade because I want to show you later how the upgrade will look like in another tool. So now suppose that I want to install a small package. So for example, TypeSpeed, which is a small text game. So I will just run apt install TypeSpeed. So for the moment, it's quite easy, and this is typically 99% of your utilization of your usage of apt. So here now TypeSpeed is installed. As you can see, I can run. I can verify that the software is installed. So now, as I said, apt update will fetch updates from the Debian repository. So the question is, where are those URL configured? So this is in the etc apt source list file, this one. So here, if you want. Up. And so if I open this file, I get something like this. So what does it mean? So here you have a prefix, deb, which means that we are interested in binary Debian package. So this is what you want in practice. You have to know that there are also Debian source packages if you are interested by the source code of your packages. But in practice, as a normal user, you won't need them. And so you could safely remove them most of the time. So that's why here in my file, I only have this deb repository here, not deb.src. Then you have a URL which corresponds to the URL of the Debian repository. So you have several Debian repositories, so ftp.fr.debian.org, for example, security.debian.org. And then inside each of those mirrors, you have the repository itself. Sorry, so here this is not the repository. So the repositories are here. So you have many of them. I will come to them a little bit later. And here you have the release of your system. So here, this is a Debian testing. So first of all, let's look how looks like a repository. So if I browse this file, I see this kind of arborescence. And in pool, you can see that I have many subdirectories that actually corresponds to this green part. Sorry, to those yellow parts. So this is what I called earlier the repositories. So the main repository corresponds to the vast majority of the package and corresponds to open source package. The non-free directory corresponds to non-free packages. Wow. And the contrib directory corresponds to free packages that are built on top of non-free packages. So by default, only the main repository will be enabled on your system. And so, for example, if you require proprietary packages, for example, for the firmware of your Wi-Fi card or for the NVIDIA drivers, if you want fast GPU acceleration, you will need to add those repository to have access to those packages. So that's why it's important to know what is inside this file. So now let's visit what is inside one of this directory. So for example, if I browse main, I will see many directory. And for example, if I open, I don't know, the T1, I will have one directory per packages that start with a T. And for example, if I go at the right place, sorry, the baby is crying, you can find, for example, the package that I installed earlier. And inside you have many versions of this package. And in particular, you have one Debian package that corresponds to the AMD 64 architecture, which is probably what you have on your own computer. And so basically, when you run apt install type speed, apt examines this URL, find the best version corresponding to your system architecture that corresponds to the package that you want to install. And so this is one of the goal of apt. This is to ease all this process. Of course, as I said, you could download by yourself this Debian file and then install it yourself. So if you want to do so, so it will look, oh, sorry. Up. So you could copy this URL, download it. I will go in a small. So you will download your file. So here I'm happy. I have my TypeSpeed packages. And so here I could install it myself. So to do so, I would use dpkg, which is the utility which is below apt. This is the low level utility. And so this will actually install the package. So to sum up, what does apt? So first of all, it will inspect this the mirror that you have filled in etc apt source.list. It will find the best version. So here, for example, 0.6.5 dash minus 3. And it will download the file in a specific place and then run dpkg to deploy your package. Now the question is actually where apt does download your file. And so this is in this directory. So if you look at this, sorry, up, you have many dev files. So here are all the dev files that apt has downloaded for me. And in this whole list, you have, you should have somewhere TypeSpeed. So I don't know where it is, and I don't know why it is not displayed. Oh, sorry. No, it should be here. I don't know why it doesn't appear. Maybe it's weird. But by the way, all your dev files should be cached here. So now let's come back to the configuration files. So sometimes you want to add some custom repositories. So it's not a good idea to directly modify your apt source.list file. So for the recall, so you have your configuration files that is here. But usually, when you want to use custom repository, you deport this configuration in another place. And so here, for example, I wanted to add a custom repository. So I will create a new file with an arbitrary name, usually suffixed by .list. And inside this file, I could add another repository. Okay. Typically, if you want to install Teams or something like this, it will also add a teams.list in this repository. And so it keeps separated the system configuration and the custom configuration. So I like to spend a few minutes about the version. So the name of the version depends on the distribution that you consider. So under Debian, you have two ways to specify a Debian version. So either you use the release name. So the release name is Toy Story Toy. And so if you want, you could look on Wikipedia the list of the release names. So here, for example, if I go here, you can see, so you have many Toy Story games that correspond to the various Debian versions. So here, the red one are very old version. And so currently we are rather here. So as you can see, you have Bullseyes, Bookworm, Trixie, etc., etc. So currently the stable version of Debian is Bookworm, and the testing one is Trixie. So when in your file you say testing here, it's the same as saying Trixie. This is the same. But in the future, maybe in a few months, Trixie will become the new stable version, and Forky will become the testing version. And so it's up to you to decide whether you want to be in the current stable version or the current testing version, or explicitly in Bookworm or Trixie. It's up to you. You decide what you want in your file. So this is specific to Debian. And you have to know that there is a version that is Sid, which corresponds to the bad boy in Toy Story, which is unstable. And so this is say the early version of the packages. So if you want to test a very new version of packages, you would have to enable the seed repository. That's all for the packages. I hope it's clear for the moment. Is there a question for the moment?
Yeah, I have a question in the meanwhile.
Yes, go ahead.
So Debian files are basically binary.
Yes. So the Debian files are actually archives. You can uncompress them. This is I don't know if it's, I guess it's TRGZ in practice. We can check. And yes, so it's a binary because inside your archive, this is a binary. So we can look at this. Maybe I think it's a TRGZ file in practice. I don't remember.
So,
No. No.
but so this means that DPKG, what it is doing is copying the binaries into the working directories, like in /bin, etc. So it does something more than just copying the binary
Yeah,
into the
yeah,
C.
it will exactly. It will uncompress this. So I will show you here. So for example, so to uncompress, you are supposed to go through dpkg deb, but in practice, this is a gz file or something like this. I don't remember the exact format, but it's not important because in practice you use dpkg deb. And so if you uncompress this, so here I will uncompress this in the current directory. You will find this. So as you can see, you have a kind of Linux hierarchy inside the Debian file. And so when you run dpkg minus I, it basically deploy all these arborescence in slash, in the root of your file system. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
And so why is it binary? This is because here, for example, this file is a binary. So, sorry. Sorry. No, I picked the wrong one. Where is the binary? It is here. Okay. So here, this is a binary. Fine. Okay. Does it answer your question, Leonardo?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So let's move to the tutorial. So now, we have explained all of this. Okay. So now suppose that I want to remove a package. So earlier I have installed TypeSpeed. Suppose that I'm no more interested in TypeSpeed. So I will start to remove it. So to do this, I could run sudo apt remove TypeSpeed. Up. And this will remove TypeSpeed. So as you remember, dpkg allows to query the Debian package database. And so I can list the entire list of packages that are installed on my system. So let's look how it looks like. So if I run this, I have many lines that list all the packages that are installed or partially installed on my system. So let me clarify. So for example, here, account service is installed because of this II in this version on my system. The account wizard package is partially installed. Actually, it is not installed, but there are still some remaining configuration files related to account wizard that are on my file system for this version. But account wizard, the package itself is not no more installed. There are only remaining configuration files, so some traces, if you want, of a previous install. So here, I could, for example, filter this list to only keep the packages that are installed on my system. Okay, so I will keep only the lines starting with II. And I could check whether that text feed is here. So it's not installed. But actually, maybe it's partially installed. And yes, there are some configuration files that are remaining on my file system. If I want to remove completely TypeSpeed, as if it would have never existed on my system, I would require to run a purge. And actually, this is what you want to do most of the time because it's quite rare that you want to keep your configuration file. It only happens if you have, I don't know, a very complex, I don't know, server web configuration. You want to remove your web server, but you want to keep your configuration file. So if you want to keep your configuration file, you run apt remove. If you want to completely remove a package as well as its configuration file, you run apt purge. So if I do this, it will completely purge TypeSpeed, and now I can check that this file, this package is completely removed. So this is the difference between a purge and a remove. So of course, apt purge or apt get purge or aptitude purge, so it works for every of the clients. Okay, so now let's look at some other commands. So here you say, okay, that's cool. You know by advance that the package of interest is TypeSpeed, but what if you don't know the package that interests you? So for example, imagine that you are interested in, I don't know, Firefox, but you want to find what is the right package. So to find the package, you could use apt cache. And so to do so, it's quite easy. You just run this. For example, I want packages about Firefox. And as you can see, you have a long list of packages that are related to to Firefox, sorry. You have to know that there are another way to search for package name. And so this is directly through apt, but this is not exactly the same, as you will see. And so this is not exactly the same display, the same information, but this is more or less the same information. You have the list of the package in green, the candidate release, the package status, and the description. But those two commands are more or less equivalent. Now, assume that you want more details about a package. So, for example, if I come back to Firefox, you could see, oh, there are a lot of files. What are all of this? So for example, what is this? And so this package, for example, we can see that it seems to be related to translate Firefox in French. If you want more details about this package, you will run apt show your package, and it will display some information about the package. The version, is it an important package or not? A description, etc., etc. And also, as you can see here, some dependencies. And the dependencies are very important and are the very added value of apt with respect to dpkg, because when you want to install Firefox, it depends on a vast number of packages. And as a normal user, you have absolutely no idea of the quantity of the dependency, and you are not at all interested by those dependencies. You want your package manager to deploy all of them automatically. Actually, apt will examine all those dependencies and download all the dependencies that are not yet installed on your system, download them, and deploy them in the right order. And this DPKG is totally unable to do so. And that's why in practice, you will most of the time use APT rather than DPKG. So DPKG is only when you download by yourself some deb package at some place and you want to deploy them. And so the natural question that arises is, suppose that I download manually a Debian package on a website, for example, on the website of Chrome, for example. Maybe I don't have already all the needed dependency to deploy this Debian package. And so what you would do is typically, so you would go on the website of Chrome, this. You will download your Debian package. So I don't know where it is. Pop, 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 télécharger. Okay, so here you want the Debian file. You download it. Okay, cool. So I will. So let's go to download. So here is the. So I have downloaded it before the tutorial. That's why it is here. And so now you want to install it. So you would run this command. So here, fortunately, maybe I have all the needed dependency and DPKG won't complain. But in general, this is not the case. And so if it fails, you could say install the missing dependency like this. So usually, so you could use, for example, apt-get, for example. And so if you do so, it will fix all the missing dependencies that were missing to install Chrome. So basically, what would have happened is this command would have failed, this first one. It would have complained because some dependency were missing. You run this, and up automatically, it will install all the missing dependencies as well as Google Chrome. So here, my package is installed, and now you know how to install a Debian package that you have manually downloaded, even if you have complex dependencies. Okay, so let's come back to the file that you want to search. So we have presented apt catch and apt search. So now, what if you are interested in a specific command and you have absolutely no idea of the package that provides this command? So for example, assume that you are wondering, I don't know, what is the package that provides the command ls, for example. So what you will need is apt file, which is not installed by default. So you will start by installing apt file like this. Okay, so it's already installed. Then you have to build an index for apt file to map every package name with its content. So this is the purpose of apt file update. So it requires root privilege because this is related to the application. So this will modify some system configuration file related to apt file. So to save basically the index. And so it will index many repositories. And so now you can search what the file of interest. So it could be anything, a command, a configuration file, what you want. So for example, assume that I want to search the command ls. So I know that this is a binary. Up. And so here I have a list of many strings. So here, this is the package name. And here, as you can see, you have something that is not what we are interested in. So we will filter like this to say I want only to keep the lines that ends with bin ls. Okay, and so now I have less candidates. And so if I am specifically interested in /bin/ls, I can see that this is the core utils package that provides this binary. So what does it mean? If sometimes you follow a tutorial and your Linux says, oh, command not found. So basically, you will run this kind of commands. So you will just replace your ls by the ls by your command, and you will be able to know, oh, okay, this is core utils or whatever package that I have to install. And so you will just have to run apt install. So here, for example, core util. So it is already installed because this is one of the core package of Debian. It's installed by default. But when you have some missing commands, this is of course non-core package, and so the package is missing. What you have to know is the naming of the package follows some convention. And so, for example, all the packages that start with X are most of the time related to graphical application. Those that, if it starts with a K, this is often KDE application. If it's so, I won't read the whole list, but you have some examples here. And so it's a good idea to have a basic knowledge of those naming convention to ease the search, because basically when you run apt search, for example, Firefox here, you can see that you have a lot of packages. So often the name of the package is the application name itself, sometimes not. And for example, for Firefox, it's not the case. It's Firefox ESR, for example. But it's actually you have both of them. You have Firefox and Firefox ESR. And it's a good idea to have an idea of the way the package are named. So often, if this is a software, the package is just the name of the software, and it will be the same command. And if you want to translate, you will be interested by those kind of packages. If you want the library, this will be this kind of packages. Actually, when you install a library for developing purpose, you are rather interested by the one suffixed by -dev. If you want to install also in this group, often we are interested in Python. So you have to be careful because Python minus is related to Python 2 and Python 3 is related to Python 3. So nowadays, I guess that most of us use Python 3. So you can totally ignore those ones and only focus on those ones. So there are also some packages that are some tricks internal to apt that are here to encode complex dependency. This is what we call virtual packages and meta packages. So actually, those packages doesn't install anything, but they have dependencies, or they satisfy some dependency to express complex dependency. So in particular, when you install Linux, you have the opportunity to say, oh, I want GNOME, or I want KDE, or I want something like this. And basically, it installs a meta package. So many meta packages are prefixed by tasks, and it installs a bunch of packages. And so you don't have to know, oh, I have to install this application, this application, this application. So this is just a package that say you want this, okay, this is this bunch of package. This is basically the idea of a meta package. And so a virtual package is a way to encode in apt a complex dependency. And so this is something that you can't install with apt install. This is something that you will satisfy by installing another package. So for example, I'm in the wrong terminal. Up. So for example, let's assume that I want to install, I don't know. So here now I will start to show you a more advanced tool, which is aptitude. So sorry, maybe I was a bit quick, so I will show you the command that I run. So I run sudo aptitude. So as I said, you can run sudo aptitude update, sudo aptitude install, but with this tool, in particular, you have a graphical interface. Graphical is a way to speak. So you can click on the menu like this, and it will give you for every say command the corresponding shortcut. So for example, if you want to install a package, this is plus. If you want to remove, this is minus. If you want to purge, this is underscore, etc., etc. And here, up, you have a big tree. So here the minus is a folder, and you can move across the folder using the up arrow or the down arrow to move like this. And you can open each directory by pressing enter. So for example, here, this is the here I am in the folder listing all the packages that could be upgraded. So if I open it, you can see that you have some packages, the current version and the last version. But you have also virtual packages. And those virtual packages, actually, you see, you have a small V at the beginning. This is a virtual package. This means that you can't install them. You can run apt install AAC Tactics or AA lib bin. It's not possible. If you want this package to be installed, so for this particular example, you would have to install this package, libaa bin, that will enable this virtual package. And of course, you might imagine that a virtual package might be provided by many packages. So, for example, this one, AAPT2, whatever it is, if you install one of those guys, it says to the apt package manager that AAPT2 is installed. Whatever you install, the 34, the 33, the 32 version, you have installed this dependency, which means that in another package, you could have a dependency that says, I depends on AAPT2. And so to have this dependency satisfied, you just have to have installed one of those guys. So this is virtual packages. Okay, so now let's look apt in depth. So I explained earlier that it was downloading some files. So yes, so at the very beginning, so it locks the apt database. So it creates an empty file, lib apt lock, that will be removed at the end of the update. It will, when you run apt update, it fetch the list of the last packages in var lib apt list. So in this directory, you have all the information related to the repository that are filled in etc apt source.list. It will compare the version on your system and the available version. And when it's done, it will release the lock in apt lock. Is there a question so far, or is it clear? Yes, no? No question for the moment, so I assume it's clear. Or maybe you are all dead. I don't know. I hope you are undead. So apt upgrade. So it will download the files. It will download them in varcache apt archive. So if you want to get some space, you will run sudo apt clean. If you want to install a package, so this is the same principle. It will download a specific file and only install this package and its dependency. apt purge, apt remove. It will remove the corresponding package. And sometimes you have some dependencies that are no more needed. You can remove all of them using sudo apt auto remove. So this is a convenient way to get back some space on your hard drive. So when you run complex migration, you might have some orphan packages. And so a useful utility is deborphan. So deborphan actually lists all the packages that are orphan on your system. So here, for example, I have 3 packages that are orphan. I can remove all of them running this command. So as you can see, it will remove all of them. So sometimes you might have new orphan that have appeared due to this purge. So here, this is not the case. So you might have to run those 2 commands several times to purge every orphan. So the dpkg command, so I already talked about this, so I will skip this. So here you have some dpkg commands. So this is the corresponding command to the apt command. So if you want to purge or install something, so it's not, you will rarely need them. This is just for your information. And now we come to the hard part, which is aptitude. And so Aptitude is the tool that you will require when you will have complex migration. So typically, if you move from, I don't know, stable to testing version, often it's quite complicated because you have some dependencies that are broken. Is there a question?
No.
No? Okay, sorry. So how it looks like. So let's run Aptitude. So here, as I said, I can list many packages that are installed on. If you want to find a specific package, so for example, Firefox, you can use a slash to find a package and enter a regular expression to find your package. If I want to install it, I will press plus, and as you can see, it becomes green, which means it will be installed. If I don't want to install it, or if I want to purge it or remove it, I will press minus or underscore.